Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. So there's been a thing that's been bugging me for many years now in the bikepacking space, let's call it. You know, online, if you're looking at certain rad websites or maybe that bikepacking website, when you're looking at those sites and maybe looking for information about bikes, what they always seem to show are these like one-off kind of customs or small batch makers, kind of super expensive stuff, really. Oftentimes only a frame set. You'd have to be on your own to or work with a shop to build it up. But the short story of all of that is that there's been this focus for so many years in the online bikepacking world on really high-end stuff. And the truth of the matter is like most of us really can't afford any of that stuff. I own a bike shop and perhaps could like justify owning some fancy bike like that. But the truth is, I don't know if it actually would make bikepacking, my bikepacking experience any better, to be honest. Today's video is kind of like, I don't know, maybe it's a bit of a rant, maybe it's a bit of an experiment, but well, maybe it's both. But really what I wanted to talk about is that there are options if you are interested in getting into, let's say, some gravel cycling and some bikepacking, but maybe you don't really know where to start, and maybe you don't have $2,000 to drop on a bike. And that's before you even sort out your bike camping gear, which can oftentimes be actually more expensive if you have nice gear than your bike. So yeah, maybe a few years ago, even just a few years ago, you would have to spend you'd have to spend at least $2,000 to get a bike that would have wide range gearing, okay brakes, and decent tire width. But those days are over with a lot of the technology of wide range gearing and good tires, and even tubeless if you're so inclined, coming way down in price point. A good example is this bike right here. That is a current Marin Bobcat Trail 5, and the retail price on that bike is $10.99 Canadian, and that includes pedals. Marin also makes another model of bike which I think would be equally interesting for certain people depending on the type of riding you're doing, and it's a model called the Kentfield. And for 2026 they're going to have a model called the Kentfield 3, which will have better brakes and a little bit nicer components. Both those bikes, both the Bobcat Trail 5 and the Kentfield 3, would both be really great bikes for somebody that's looking for an affordable bicycle that you could go touring on the weekends and perhaps bomb around the city and even just like commute on it if you're so inclined. So specifically about the Bobcat Trail, which would intrigue me besides the fact that it was only $1,100, is it comes with an okay suspension fork that has lockout, so you could turn it off if you were commuting and you wanted just kind of a fast feeling bike. The frame is aluminum. It's got a wide range 11-speed Qs. I think it's like an 1151 gear set on it, which is awesome. Really kind of all you need for kind of low gear climbing, and Tektro hydraulic brakes, and crucially it has a rear rack mount so that you could bolt on a rear rack and off you go. Bolt on some panniers, borrow some panniers, steal your dad's old panniers, and off you go. Now, in this case with the Bobcat Trail 5, I only made 2 changes to this bike for the adventure that I went on, and was to basically put a saddle on that I already like. So I put a cambium saddle on instead of the stock saddle, and I changed the handlebars to a swept back bar that would more or less mimic the position that I have on my current bikes for touring. And so really 2 changes. But that's not saying that you would have to make those changes either. You could grab that bike and ride it for a while and kind of figure it out. But with those 2 changes, I've transformed this kind of entry-level trail bike into a super capable bikepacking bike. In today's world, we all know things are kind of getting tougher, and sure, it's nice to have super nice bikes if we can afford them. But if you're of the persuasion where you want one bike that can do a lot of things for you, ride to work, have fun on the weekends, go touring, $1,100, $1,000, You've got a bike that's got pretty okay tires. In the case of the Bobcat Trail, you can put much bigger tires on it if you want. I think it comes with a stock sort of 2.25, which is what I ride on one of my. I've been riding on one of my main bike pack. And the Kentfield is a 700C wheeled bike that I believe you could put up to a 50 mil tire in that frame. So two-inch wide tires, tons if you're doing fire road riding or sort of gravel cycling. You know, my advice to you, if you're looking at purchasing a new bike to do some touring with, is get something, you know, in this price range, unless you know for sure that you are looking for something fancier, you specifically want, you know, this, that, or the other thing, then of course, sky's the limit, go crazy. But if you're unsure, start looking at bikes that are in that kind of $1,000 price point, and you might be surprised at what's there. But my advice to you is look for something that's going to have really wide gear range, so something with like a 50 or a 51 big cog in the back. Ideally a 1x setup is really probably all you're going to need. Hydraulic disc brakes, you definitely want hydraulic disc brakes and not mechanicals for stopping power. You want at least the bike to have the ability to put a 50 mil or a 2-inch tire on it so that you can have some flotation on gravel, and then of course rear rack mounts are clutch, because if you have rear rack mounts, you don't have to spring for very expensive through axle mounted rack systems. And if it comes with a suspension fork, that's great. If it doesn't, that's great too. If it doesn't, make sure you look for a bike that has multi-mounts on the forks. So something like the Kentfield will have that, so that you could put perhaps like some fork packs on the side of the forks if you wanted to up your capacity. So the plan here with this cool bike is I'm going to go take it on an overnight with a buddy and basically go do a ride I've done before, which is I'd say it's about half pavement and then about half, let's say 25% single track, maybe 30% single track, and then the other percentage, whatever that is, I'm bad at math. And I think it's going to give me a really good mix of surfaces and high speed and slow speed and steeps and steep ups and steep downs to get a real sense of how a cheap bike handles out on a traditional bike overnight. So rant over, time's a ticking. Let's go get this bike sorted out and drive out to the mountains, and we'll go for an overnighter. And we're live in the woods. The keen members of this community will notice that there's some white stuff around. And yeah, we got some snow overnight. It is, I mean, you can see that, but it's kind of melting as the sun does its thing. And it's the first snow, so it shouldn't be a problem for traction because there's just a bit of snow on top of grass or dirt or mud or pavement or whatever. So we're out here and getting ready to go ride our inexpensive new bicycle. So what I did was take my rear rack and panniers, which is a Old Man Mountain setup, took that off my old bike, my current bike, and then also my handlebar bag from Ortlib, as well as my feed bags. I don't have a frame bag, top tube pad, because top tube pads are rad. So I've taken the gear that I already have and just basically bolted it right onto this cool bike. And part of the reason why that was possible is this guy has rear rack mounts. So mounting a decent rack on there is easy peasy. And if I decided that needed more gear, you could always add fork bags down there and a frame bag. But for our purposes, we're just going to go with my existing stuff. So we're going to go out and give this thing a ride. It should be interesting on the snowy surfaces, and we'll see how that goes. And I'm curious the ride impressions of using this thing, this pretty inexpensive, maybe the cheapest bike I've owned in a very long time. So let's go have at it and get pedaling. would I describe how it feels? It just feels like a bike. Kind of reminds me of my like 93 stump jumper. Yeah, kind of felt like that. Which is to say, just fine, thanks. So now we're into the single track. Let's go.
And
Nice. Yeah. No, I'm going slow.
Okay.
All right, made it in. We're all set up. Lakefront property. Can't buy that anywhere. You just got to rent it for the night for $5. So yeah, that ride in is so beautiful, and I got to tell you, the Bobcat trail there. What are my opinions about how that bike performed? You know what? It kind of felt fine. The fork maybe is not that great because I didn't set it up at all actually. But honestly, that bike handled everything really, really well. It was really muddy and slippy, and I got to say it felt so balanced. The one thing I was concerned about with this bike when I was looking at the geometry is the head angle on it is kind of like progressive geometry-y. So I kind of worried that with a bag that it might want to flop kind of back and forth on some of the steeper climbs, and it didn't do that at all. So win. And honestly, comfortable. Just felt great. Shifting worked great. Brakes were great. So amazing. So we're in. The bike did great. I honestly have zero complaints, and so I won't even, like, what kind of a bike reviewer am I? Like, clearly not a very good one. But yeah, that was great. So let's go enjoy the evening. This might even be a full moon tonight. Gonna watch the sun go down over the lake later. And then we'll get to riding back in the morning on this cool little bike again. Where my gear is worth 3 times more than the bike. Woohoo!
Working its magic.
Mr. Mountain getting the rest of his gear loaded on. And we're all packed up. Pretty cold night. Everything froze, which we kind of all expected, but glorious. Beautiful, as you could see in the little time-lapse video. Yeah, gonna head back. I think maybe all the mud we encountered yesterday might be frozen here this morning. That's kind of our hope. And so far, so good. And back to this Marin here, this Bobcat Trail 5. You know, I was thinking overnight while I was like laying there, kind of trying to think about like what sort of things I had to say about this bike that I wasn't really stoked on. And honestly, it's so comfortable and really nice. Climbed pretty good. Stock tires were kind of okay. And gearing was good enough for this guy. Super great. So, bike packing on a budget bike. It can be done and still be fun. So, we're gonna head off. We got 7 kilometers of climbing right out of the campsite here. And then, what would that make it? 7, and then maybe like 15, kind of mostly downhill back to the car. Woo! Let's get at it. And just like that, we're back. So that was a pretty awesome overnighter with Rye Guy there. We went up to Elk Lakes for the night and had what I would describe as maybe the perfect end of season conditions with a little bit of snow and ice on the trail. So really got to test out how this stock Marin kind of handled, and I gotta tell you, like, it just felt like a bike. You know, I have had opportunity to ride quite a few bikes over the last number of years, and you know, when the gear is loaded on and you're plunking away on the trail, like, I don't know how good a rider or how perceptive you need to be to really pick apart the details on the difference between kind of a $1,000 bike like this, or a $2,000 bike, or a $4,000 bike. Certainly the components would be better when you get into higher end bike, but are you going to really notice the frame geometry details? I would challenge you that you probably won't. So looking at this cool machine, what I did was I put a Soma high-rise Dream high-rise bar on it, so it would kind of get me into that position that I like, which is like to have my bars a little bit above my saddle. And I put on a C17 because that one seems to fit my ass pretty nice. But other than that, I didn't do anything to this bike. I just rode it. I don't even know what tire pressure I had on it. I was just it's just riding it. Maybe the tires were a bit hard for the terrain, but they held up great in the snow and ice, and on dirt. And the suspension felt okay, though it did go below 0 in the evening, and the fork actually felt like it was frozen solid in the morning. But after a little bit of riding, it seemed to loosen up. And so, you know, if you're kind of thinking about like, what should I get for a bike, I'm going to challenge you to maybe expand your horizons downward. You know what, I'd argue that from a bike packing experience point of view, like having fun, being comfortable, all that kind of stuff, sure, your bike matters. You don't want it to break down. You want to make sure you're going to get where you're going comfortably and without any mechanical woes. But you know where I would suggest that you actually put your spend would be in your bikepacking gear, your tent, your sleep system, perhaps your racks and bags, because you know, those are things that if you cheap out on them, those are the things that can fail when you're out on the trail and give you some grief. And in my case, I think my tent probably costs as much as this bike. That's not counting my sleeping system and all the other gear that I've got, bags, racks. Like, I think the bags and the rack probably retail for the same price of this bike as well. So, you know, of course I've got nice stuff, but really you don't have to go that crazy. You know, so my advice to you is if you're kind of thinking about getting into bike packing, is ignore all the high-end stuff, especially if you're just new to it. You know, you'll learn once you get out there and start with small, shorter trips. Once you get out there and start riding, you'll learn what you like. You'll learn what you're into. You'll get enough experience that maybe you'll be able to figure out what actually kind of floats your boat, and the kind of terrain and the type of places you like to go to. I think I had as much fun on this bike as I have had on any other bike, including my 93 stump jumper that I did a video of last year, going retro packing, let's call it. The brakes are more of a suggestion of braking versus actual braking. To be honest with you, that bike surprised me, and this one did too. And so, you know, maybe it isn't all about the bike, as some like to say. Maybe it is really just about you and your expectations and being out there and having a good time. So till next time, pedal on.